Another episode of Movie Talk with the Brothers Crin. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Doing pretty good. We're getting lots of writing done these days, so especially since I've taken that Lent vow of no politics. So means gotta actually do nothing but writing. So
Yeah,
it's everything's going good.
that 2 year stint where I quit Twitter, I got so many videos done. I feel like it's one of those things that I want to kind of up my productivity, but it's very hard to do that these days.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm wanting to start using Lent as a bit of a means to do that. Like uh this year it's no politics, next year it'll be no politics and like I don't know, some other bad habit. Get those under control. And this way, like by the time I'm like 36 or 37, it's like, you know,
It makes
I've
it
got
easier.
everything,
Yeah.
my productivity out. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something I think as a Catholic, we're kind of blessed with the excuse just to go cold turkey on stuff.
Well, there's also the
Of
guilt
course,
too.
most use it. Yeah. Yeah. There is. And most use it for meat, but I can't. I have health reasons why I can't go without red meat because of my blood type and whatnot. I have
Mm.
to eat at least once a week red meat. So this would actually start to cause me some health issues. Um, and so it's better to just not go with no meat. Instead, just say, well, gotta, gotta, you know, keep eating and just instead gotta cut out the bad stuff that is truly toxic.
But that's fair.
And yeah, but anyways, Unholy is a movie that apparently it's an adaptation of a book from the 80s.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that. Was it called Shine or something like that? Or
something like that.
hold on, I can
And
look it up.
um, but this is a movie about a failed reporter who, well, he was a journalist, so he has no ethics. Um, come on, like we all know journalists are scum of the earth. And
I mean, it's
um,
common knowledge, yes.
yeah, and to any journalist listening, I meant every word. You're scum. Anyways, I'm joking there. But the thing is, this guy truly is scum and started fabricating stories to get ahead. So he's
Mm.
like a lot of journalists. But the thing is, uh, what's unusual is that his career actually took a hit and it got so blatant that he was inventing stuff that they fired him. And he's basically persona non grata in the journalist world, so to speak, which is very peculiar. Usually they graduate upwards when they do that sort of stuff. He ended up, how do I put it? Getting promoted downwards. And
He's doing like
um,
websites.
yeah, and he's basically just scrounging around. But of course, he ends up finding a doll in a field, a glass doll, or no, a clay doll, and smashes it because he wants to improve his story because he's a journalist. And the problem is he inadvertently releases one of Satan's brides. So, it's pretty realistic so far. I'm just saying journalists would do that. Um,
Journalists
but
would enact the
but
apocalypse
then
for a story.
yeah, yeah. Um, but what's unusual is he starts to develop a conscience. And he actually starts to care about the young girl who um, you know, who was mute, gets her voice and starts talking. But this is where the movie gets really, really neat in how it approaches things,
Mm.
because it's actually very theologically intelligent. Because the girl is just a tool and a descendant, I guess.
Yeah,
I should add,
yeah, that
um,
comes up. Yeah,
of a witch slash demon. I say slash because it's she was a witch in life, but when she died, she basically became a demon.
she upgraded. Yeah.
So she graduated. Yeah, she upgraded. She leveled up. And the thing is, she is using this young girl, but where it's theologically intelligent And this is noticed by the local priest, who's the adoptive father of the young girl um, who is, apparently, I think she's a relative of his
She's her
anyways,
uncle.
but he adopted. Yeah, he's her uncle, but he adopted her, and he, um well, he notices this and immediately starts to dig into it and research it. Um, once he realizes that, some of what she's doing, because she's saying, "Pray to Mary,"
Yeah.
and this is actually not. Now, this is where this is not actually Catholic. We pray for Mary to intercede
Hmm.
with her son for us, but we don't actually pray to Mary. We are just like we don't believe in that. We don't pray to Mary. We pray for her to intercede.
Well, that was the thing that kind
It's
of
like,
that's what kind of made me
mhm,
well, especially like when I was watching the film the first time. They focused all of their energy on praying to Mary, or do you believe in Mary? Will you accept her into your heart? And I was like, well, that's that anybody else from the observatory standpoint, if anybody standing outside of that would be like, no, that's not right. What's going on here? But
yeah,
everybody was just so wrapped up in the miracle aspect and being healed and having their needs like met and exceeded that they just kind of even the her uncle was like, I don't know about this.
initially.
Yeah, initially until
Yeah,
his
well,
emphysema is healed.
yeah. Then when his emphysema heals, he's immediately going, "Nope." He's then like, "Nope,
Well,
this wasn't a miracle."
he did see that little hint of the or Mary Stephen
Monster
form,
behind it.
yeah, and he's
Yeah.
like, oh,
He did see it because but that's where this movie is really intelligent, because it shows he's in a way more in tune with the spiritual realm because he's a priest.
mm-hmm,
But he's an interesting character because I think he's one of the first ones who notices the theological problem, and that, Catholics don't pray to Mary.
yeah,
They they pray to Jesus. Mary, the saints, the martyrs, the prophets, they're meant to intercede on your behalf, but you don't pray to them.
mm-hmm.
So
It falls
if
in,
anyone says pray what?
it
Sorry.
falls into idolatry.
Yeah, exactly. So if someone says to, and I'll even extend this to all Christians, like to Protestants, to Orthodox, to Catholic, we all share this in common. If someone says pray to Mary or pray to Peter, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
our first reaction is no. What the? No, that we don't do that. We pray to God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this is a now I know people I've seen people who said it's semantics, it's wordplay. No. The thing is the wording matters. And we have to think like medieval peasants. The medieval peasants thought the wording mattered. They're obsessed with the wording. We have to look at it the same way. Theology is based around grammar as much as it is around philosophy, because grammar, philosophy, and theology all tie in together. And here, he's noticing the grammar, the wordplay, and Father Hagen is going, "That's wrong. There's something off there." And I must praise you for, because like when I first saw this, I went, "Wait, pray to Mary?"
Yeah,
Like I had the same reaction.
that's kind of the context clue that ticks you off that something's wrong, or like it lets you know something's wrong here. Especially like later on when you see how the Bishop Giles kind of reacts and how he handles things, and you're just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and what's more is, um, now, like, Mary herself, the Virgin, is
Mm-hmm.
sacred to Catholics and Orthodoxes, but we would never think to pray to her, and she would never like, "Oh, Mary wants you to pray to her." Mary would never say that.
Well, I was gonna say she's a servant of the Most High, like more
Yeah.
so than like being a deity in herself. And it's interesting though in the Catholic sphere where Mary is kind of she's venerated, but she's not treated like on the same level as like God and Christ. So
No. Yeah, you're right, and it's exactly like that. And in the Catholic sphere, she's treated with a lot of reverence and respect. The term I've seen used is the new Ark of the Covenant.
Mm.
But the thing is, that being said, in no way do we worship her, and nor should we, because that falls under idolatry, like you said. And that's where Father Hagen, like, I just like how he's a smoker and how it's like he sends his niece away, and he's the first before he even starts it. Well, he starts his investigation in the archives, but then he enjoys a good cigarette, and he's just relaxing, right in the lead up to his death scene because you can see him pondering things and he's putting the pieces together
Hmm.
mentally. And I really like that there's that quiet scene where he's just smoking his cigarette,
Hmm.
leaning back and just kind of,
Ruminating.
I guess we'd say, yeah, yeah, ruminating is a good word. That was a great touch. And the fact that he's Haywood in Shawshank is awesome because such range.
Yeah, William Sadler has a lot
And
of range.
mm, and um, as for I forget his name, but the actor who plays Giles, I think
That's Carrie Elways. Yeah.
the bishop,
And
Carrie Elwes. I love that man.
I was
Heaven bless him.
I was gonna say he's the one of the best parts of the Princess Bride. Also, Robin Hood,
I
Men in
find he works.
Tights.
Yeah, honestly, he should have played a actual Robin Hood movie.
Yeah, I
He was
appreciate the fact that
very
he did a parody and did the parody so well that you kind of
yeah,
he's the first thing you think of and not the Robin Hood Russell Crowe film or whatever.
yeah. But I just mean like I love that we got a comedy with him, but I also want a serious movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was one of those things where they should have, and I think partially the reason why he poked fun. Unlike others, I actually speak with a authentic British accent. Like I feel like that was a nice jab at the movie industry.
Yeah, it was. But Elvis plays the most like this is where I'll be honest. I've seen him play really good villains, like in the Jungle Book. That
Hmm.
honestly, he steals the show in there as the main villain in that movie. Um,
Was he Shere Khan?
that's probably my no. He was the English
The Hunter.
captain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the thing is, he played the role of such panache and evil dignity. It is kind of awesome, but like he plays heroes and villains with class and dignity, but in this movie he seems without class and without dignity. And it's a very interesting shift as even in his villain roles where he's um just pure greed, he still carries with him a certain aristocratic air. Here he doesn't carry it over. But he still carry Ellis, like Ellis, but you just see how he made the decision as an actor to just go with being a guy who'd sell his own mother for, you know, like a ticket to a better concert.
I'm
He
curious.
just struck me. Mhm.
Is this and I kind of I noticed that when I was watching this, like, is he's the mirror image of Jerry Finn's character, the Jeffrey D. Morgan's character. He seems to be the mirror image
Yeah.
of that character, where it's like, yeah, they both have similar paths, but it seems like Bishop Giles basically lost his faith trying to maintain some sense of order. It's like the mission of, like, because he has that speech where he talks about how everything is you look at the news, what do you see? Like war, famine, pestilence, and he's more interested in trying to perpetuate miracles or perpetuate the sense of God being present over everything else, or over even truth in this aspect.
Mm, exactly. And what's interesting is that now in the Bible, Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not trying to turn this into a sermon, but what's interesting in in Bishop Giles's character is that he's working in the church, but he has no conception of what the truth is. Like, you know what I mean? He's a liar. He's a man who doesn't like the truth is secondary
Kind of comes off like a
to
televangelist in that aspect.
yeah. And like what is Christianity without the truth when under Christian theology the truth is a person?
Hmm.
Well, it's utterly empty at that point. And it's really interesting how, like you said, he's a mirror, he's a dark image to Finn. And we see the more this is progressing, the more like the dark miracles are happening, the more Finn is having nightmares
Mm-hmm.
and is noticing in videos. Like, I love those scenes where he's in front of the laptop and he's just watching, and then he just notices a little, like, you know what I mean? Like a little bit of static, and he goes, huh, just zooms in a little ever more
Yeah, and
until he finally.
it turns and looks at him. It's reminiscent of the the Ring, kind of where the scenes where the main character is actually like looking through the video footage or trying to break down the film, and she winds up pulling a fly out of the screen. It's like,
Yeah, it is. And what I like is that it she's haunting him, but especially after that. But she doesn't immediately come after him. It's like she thinks she still has him within her grasp.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
she needs him. And that was the one thing that Alice actually stated too. Alice was basically saying that, yeah, Mary's happy with you, and she feels like she needs him to continue spreading her gospel. So he's a useful pawn in this point. Well, up until the end where like he basically exposes her. Yeah.
And what is it that Mary tells him? Like, doubt is the seed of
It leads to
what was it?
damnation.
Like, yeah, and it's like, well, it destroys faith. And he uses that very knowledge to destroy the town's faith in Mary of Elmar.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is after, he has his nightmare at one point, like near the end, and after the father, the bishop, not the bishop, the priest has been killed. I love how he has that scene where he says, where's the church archives? Like, we're almost within a day or two, he's like, there's no way the priest would commit suicide. It's not in him.
Yeah, he's basically,
especially since he was cured.
He's using his detective reasoning, which is like, these are things that, okay, I've never went to journalism school, but I feel like personally in my profession is like writing blogs and kind of gathering hunches and figuring out things and finding out that my hunches are right. You have to have a certain detective spirit where you got to go with your hunches, you got to go with your gut, you got to like start looking around for leads and stuff like that. And a lot of these are things that a lot of journalists, especially nowadays, they don't want to do that because they think the internet will pretty much solve all of their problems. But you still have to utilize the internet in the same way that old journalists would. It's like, a tool. Yeah, it's a tool. You pick up the phone, you make calls, you make emails, you contact people, you try to like find like little connecting parts that exist that you can't see with the naked eye, basically.
And sometimes I'll just say I've been down a few rabbit holes.
Yes.
When people say follow the money, I'd say be very careful because
it's very easy to go down
rabbit holes. Yeah, some rabbit holes though. Well, you need a strong mind and a strong stomach to go down.
Once there's certain times where you'll find something and you kind of wish you didn't, because now you can't look at certain things the same way.
Yeah, that's what's happened to me in the past.
I've had that happen before too. My dad, and the irony is my dad's a bit of a conspiracy theorist, so like it's a genetic thing. So there's things where I'm like, I don't want to go too far into this.
but in the circles I'm now running, we don't call it conspiracy theory. We call it spoilers.
Well, I mean, because 6 months later it normally happens.
Yeah. Um, we call it spoilers.
Oh, there's
But
another character we missed just to get us back on track. Delgarde
mhm.
is probably one of my favorite characters in this film.
Who?
Delgarde, the priest, the priest that dies at the end with
Oh,
the
the
cross
Exorcist.
falls on. Yeah,
I like him.
he
He was a
is.
badass.
Yeah, it's like you didn't first when you first meet him, you're like, he's kind of an asshole, and then he actually is one of the few people that
He
believes Finn.
Yeah, and what I like is how um I like how he says, like, I've disproved so many charlatans and whatnot. But then when the time comes, like, Mary of Almar is Alice's ancestress, and that whole thing is revealed. I like how his reaction is to turn to the bishop, like when the bishop says, "Yeah, I already know. I already had people look into that."
He's like, what?
And how you have the, "Why wasn't I informed?" And you have Gus, "Oh, come on, it's not a big deal." Kind of is. Like I like
That's
how well,
that's
he
a
doesn't
huge
say that, but
deal.
he's like,
Yeah, as an exorcist, it's his job to figure out situations like this.
yeah, he probably
Mm-hmm.
should have done a bit more research himself. But that being said, when like I like how when it comes time to confront Elmar uh at the bishopric's archives, he doesn't even bat an eyelash at the sight of the demon. He just holds up his cross and banishes her from the area with little difficulty.
Well, she made the pages of his Bible melt, thinking that that was going to stop him from completing the exorcism, and he just completely is like, "No, I know this by heart. You lose in this
Yeah,
situation."
yeah. He basically pimp slapped her aside.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the point where it was like, okay, you won me over. Like if it kind of makes me wish that you could have some, because I know when it comes to the Conjuring series, there's a lot of prequels
uh-huh.
and stuff surrounding stuff. If this movie were a little bit more popular than it was, a Delgard kind of prequel series would be great.
Prequel.
Yeah,
Yes. Agreed.
at
That would have
least
been
one or
awesome
two
because he's not
movies.
even. Yeah, and he's not even surprised to see a demon. He's like, "Oh, Tuesday." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just takes it in stride. He's like,
Well, he knows. He
"You have
knows.
you have to get out of." Yeah, he's like, "You have to get out of here. You have to get back to the church." And it's like Finn is basically going, "I told you, and you didn't believe me." Yeah, well, get to the church. And Finn, wait. Like then it seems like Finn does a double take and realizes Delgard is not even like shaken. He's like, okay,
He shares drinks with Tommy Jarvis on Fridays.
yeah, probably.
Oh, holy crap!
Um,
I didn't know that. So the actor that played Delgard is Diogo Margado. He actually played Jesus in the movie Son of God.
didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
I
He's
was about to say
almost
Gesundheit, but
he's almost unrecognizable when his hair's grown out. I'm in the middle of
cool.
something. Yeah. Oh, what? Okay.
So, like,
Can you tell me? Can you tell me that later and get out of frame?
okay.
Okay. I'll take a look at your tablet in a little bit. Okay.
The other one might work.
Oh my gosh. Sorry about that.
Kids,
They
I
have
don't apologize.
no sense of like anything when it comes to just doing stuff. It's one of those things where it was like I'm kind of they'll get older at some point and maybe I'll get back to what I was doing in terms of like content creation, but then I'll probably be too old.
Maybe, but yeah. As for the movie, um, the attack in the Well, I just like how once she realizes Finn's basically going off script, she just starts attacking him and trying to get rid of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can mess up everything, and she's like so close to that. What was it? The warp version of the feast ceremony.
Yeah, yeah. And she has her tree moved into the church to desecrate the church.
It's
And
it's this movie was interesting. It's like I wouldn't say it's
yeah,
I wouldn't say in terms of horror movies, it felt more like a thriller with supernatural elements though.
yeah,
That's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
yeah. That's what it was.
Because when I look at horror, my favorite genre is more affiliated with the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, this one was like that, and it's very interesting. And what happens at the end with the would-be feast, what I like is that, um, in a way, there's a moment where, like, en route to the church to interrupt it, where Finn ends up on a phone call, like, not even a minute after he gets into the vehicle and he's driving off, from his former boss saying, "Well, you scored the old job." And it's like, isn't that a little convenient that she's calling now
I'm giving you
at
everything
one
you
point?
want.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is convenient. No, he's en route to the archbishopric, no, to
Yeah.
the bishopric, I think.
It
But
kind of
like, just that scene,
it reminds me of was it Being Tempted in the Desert?
yeah, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It was very slyly slipped in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I like how when he's heading to the church, he tries calling her and tries asking for help, and it doesn't entirely work out. And even better is that the fact that when he finally gets there, he's like, "I made it all up." And he destroys his own reputation. He's like, "I made it all up. It's fake. Fake news." Yeah, he doesn't say that, but he's like, yeah,
If you would have,
fake
well, I mean,
news.
it was shot in 2020, so I guess you could have gotten away with saying that, but that might have been a little too on the nose at the time.
Yeah, but I like how he completely destroys the cult of Mary Elmar just by, yeah, to an extent, lying. But her entire church is in cult is
It's
built on
built
a
on a
lie.
lie. Yeah.
So you and then like I love how the like she finally just exposes the truth when she just comes out bursts out of the tree. So just right there, does that mean she in a way is spiritually weakened? Because
Well,
she's strengthened by lies.
she's probably emotionally enraged because like everything that she built, uh, she had she was on the cusp of what she wanted to achieve, and everything that she had built basically fell apart just in like minutes. So she's probably
Yeah.
infuriated. She she hops out of that, immediately destroys Carrie Elways, like just incinerates him in the ashes, and then proceeds to
If he
go
had had a
after.
sword, she'd have been defeated.
Yeah. So here's my here's the thing that well, just to tie off of what or go back to what you were saying, like her whole like congregation was built on a lie. He destroyed it with the lie,
Yeah.
and then in the beginning, the this whole thing started out of a lie, where it's like, oh, cattle mutilations. How do we spice that up? Here's this doll in this tree.
A
Ritual
spirit did it.
yeah, ritual destruction or whatever from Satanists, or it was like Satanist vandalism or something like that, and he breaks the doll, which unleashes Mary, which sets us through this the bunch of or wild consequences. That's I suppose.
Yeah. Basically, it's one lie that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to like another, and
I'm
it just starts destroying.
yeah. He,
And I like how when Alice goes to tell the truth, well, I like how right before she goes to do it, you have Mary of Elmar like, "Do it or else," or something to that effect, and that's when she realizes, "Oh shit."
Yeah,
You know what
because
I
she
mean?
she
Like,
basically said that the sacrifices or something like that. It was we're close to
I
something being
like
or
I must have those souls.
yeah.
Do it or you will never speak again, is what she tells her. But like anyone who knows anything about the religion knows the virgin would never talk like that
Yeah,
and never
nobody
threaten anyone.
nobody who is like holy would talk in those ways, whatever. You're supposed to be saving souls, not consuming them. So
Yeah, and it's like, okay, shit just went wrong at some point.
it definitely hit the
And I
fan.
like
Yes.
how, yeah, well, I just really like how the girl then tries to vouch for Finn and then loses her voice.
Yeah.
It, where Mary's just like, shut up.
It
But
was
the
like
problem is the site.
it was like Beetlejuice,
Hmm?
where he's just throwing the metal thing on Gina Davis's face to stop her from talking.
Yeah, but the problem here is when people notice her inability to talk, they realize something's off.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So she kind of does it to herself.
the tree catching on fire was really the capper on that one.
Yeah. Um,
People thought it true of what Mary really was.
mm. And like even like the way she walked was kind of weird and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have to admit, uh, I don't much like the epilogue. Because I think the statue crying was going a little far. I
Well,
think it should have ended.
just the thing that really irritated me about that too is the implications, because remember at the end Alice basically dies, and
Yeah,
he wishes, or he basically prays to God to bring her back, but the statue crying gives the implication that Mary actually succeeded and took her body. So I don't
which
necessarily like that aspect of the ending.
it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like I'm just saying, it doesn't make any like a logic
Mm-hmm.
because she can't talk anymore.
Well, yeah,
I would,
yeah. She would basically be able to talk, or she would have did some smirk at the camera or something like that as she turned away. Which she looks like she's living a normal life, is just going back to being deaf, and seems very
exactly.
very comfortable with her choice.
And I think, like I prefer to watch the movie without bothering with the epilogue.
Now
So
I'm wondering too. Now that I'm thinking about this, is like it could go one of two ways. One, what we're just talking about, where she actually did possess her descendant and is living through her body right now, or two, got the miracle was God bringing her back to life, and because she's alive, the spirit of Mary still exists, which is why the statue was crying blood. So the battle
oh,
still rages on.
maybe I prefer to look at like I would say that how the movie should have gone is that, when Mary of Almar accidentally kills Alice
Mm-hmm.
and, she turns to dust. Um, I think that, you have Finn begging and pleading and finally praying to God for the first time um, since he was a child and he
Mm-hmm.
turned away from the faith. I think that, like having her live and, his comment about, I've never said anything worth hearing. What we should have seen was just the camera, like you've got them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the camera focusing on one of the crosses, which I think just having one cross on the tree that survived and then just cutting to black in the credits would have been the perfect ending.
Yeah, that would be good. That definitely would have been good. Like I think the thing that
Because it would
really
show,
uh,
because
I'm,
if they did it that way, it would have shown who actually won in the end. It was God,
yeah,
and that in a way, God used Mary of Elmar's own tools
against her.
to destroy her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also this would mean he also ended up kind of winning her lineage over back to the path of God,
Yeah.
while also rewarding Finn and keeping Finn around. So like the thing is, this is probably the more Christian. That would be the more Christian ending, where you know. But the thing is, uh, I would say that would be my preferred ending. So I usually stop the movie at that point because I'm
I,
like, there's nothing left really.
the way I'm looking
Because
at it
the
too is,
movie,
yeah, I think
hmm?
having it be a victory of God by like bringing Alice back to life, and just kind of yeah, I feel like the statue is way too schlocky. It kind of
Yeah,
it went into kitsch territory.
yeah, I did. Like with some horror films, you can hint at a potential sequel, like the Hammer Dracula movies, even like the Friday the 13th or the um uh I don't know, the Odd Halloween movie.
You can say
They like
Nightmare on Elm Street
ending
too.
that way, yeah. Ending in that way makes sense. There are some horror movies the monster should be hinted to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And like for example, I would argue any movie with let's say you make a movie called The Wolf Man.
Okay.
I know they've failed every time in
Mm-hmm.
the recent history, but there should be a hint at the end the Wolfman's going to come back.
Well,
Like
well,
you have to have the hint.
here's a great example. Dream Warriors. Like at the end of Dream Warriors,
Mm,
they basically they give Freddy's remains a Catholic burial, and basically like banishes him back to hell. But at the end of the movie, was it Kristen's the models that model of the house from Elm Street, the light cuts on. So I was like, that's good. I like that. That's a good indication of, yeah, the monster could come back. I think the actually I
mm,
will agree with you, like just showing the one cross on the tree, because I ultimately especially in any great Christian movie, it's not that the evil is defeated forever. It's more of a balance of good and evil, because there's always that test that's going to be there, that's going to try to like basically steel man your faith.
mm. Yeah, and the whole idea of the Christian religion is that the final battle will be decided at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and like God wins.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in the meantime, you're going to be tested, you're going to be challenged, you have to fight and scrap for every inch of territory, so to speak, you
Correct.
have.
Yes. Correct.
And like, yeah, and I think this would have been the perfect ending. But that being said, I think that this movie could have used some prequels. It would have been great.
Well, I'm
Um,
wondering like how much of the movie translated from the book. The book's called Shrine, by the way. I looked it up. It's written by James Herbert,
hmm,
who
okay.
apparently he worked on. Let's see. There was Fluke, which surprisingly my is one of the movies I grew up watching. Uh,
Hmm.
Fluke was the story. I don't know if you guys ever saw Fluke, but basically a guy dies. He's reincarnated into the body of a dog, which is taken in by his family or a surviving family. Which, that movie kind of irritated me, because it's like if I were reincarnated and I had to watch my wife marry another person, I would go apeshit.
Yeah,
Call me
yeah,
petty.
yeah. No, like, dude, dude,
I
I'd
bet the
wreck
shit out
shit.
of him.
Yeah, I get it. I would wreck shit.
he,
I would wreck shit.
I don't know why he doesn't like Walter. Oh,
But yeah, like, and I think that what I find is interesting is if it had ended with the little like the crucifix,
mm-hmm.
is that this would be almost a more Hammer style ending because Hammer knew when this was a gift that a lot of the directors of Hammer did have.
Mm-hmm.
They knew how to end it. at times. Like they knew, for the most part, knew how to end it. Like, okay, should we give it a happy ending, or like the monster is going to be back?
Mm.
And often they did do the monster's going to come back, which, like in several of the Dracula movies, you see like the body of Dracula below the ice, for example, and you're like, that's not going to contain him. He's going to be back. But you look at the Baron, Meinster from Brides of Dracula, and you go, oh yeah, he's only paralyzed for now.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because Van Helsing basically knocked him down with the windmill. And it's like, no, but is Van Helsing really going to let him just get back up? No, like Meinster is not getting back up. He's done. He's gone. And this is the thing. You get a happy ending in Brides of Dracula for a reason. But you get in one of the other movies, that's it for Dracula.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not it for Dracula. Like he's going to be back. So, or like, Baron Frankenstein will be back. This is one of the gifts of Hammer. They knew how to end it for the most part. Not always, but usually. And I would argue this is why I'm also attached to the Friday the 13th Bloodlines fan films,
Mm-hmm.
is because they figure out what the ending should have been for the franchise. Because everything after number 6 is a bit of a disgrace. And it just spirals into nonsense.
I was gonna say
While,
it's very directionless.
yeah, but the thing is, it had found its direction in number 4 and 6 in Tommy Jarvis,
Yeah.
and because he is the hero, Jason's the villain, and the Bloodlines fan films basically set it like 25 years later or something,
Mm-hmm.
and give Tommy daughters, and where Jason wants to kill Tommy's children,
Okay.
and Jason's teamed up with his dad. So with Mr. Voorhees, Elias Voorhees, who's a demon. So you have Jason and Elias who want to kill the Jarvis line because they just, well, they don't like that Tommy killed Jason. So, they want that revenge, but they want to cut the entire lineage off because they deep down fear it, because Tommy's kind of become a bit of a demon slayer.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're kind of like, we don't want him to get us. We want to kill him and his lineage. But the thing is, the fan films end with Tommy triumphant, and this is an appropriate ending. This is how it should be. That's how Friday the 13th should have ended.
Yeah.
But you look at, like, I would argue Halloween. I think it should have ended with number 4.
Oh, good,
With
good choice. Good choice, because I was thinking the same thing. Well, it wasn't for me. 4. I would rather. I would have rather the movie ended at 2, or a series would end at 2, because there was such a tight storyline. But 4, I understand the next generation aspect of it.
Yeah, if they had to continue, I'd say use Jamie as the new shape,
Mm-hmm.
and her stepsister or foster sister, or her adoptive sister, whatever, as the new Loomis,
Okay.
so that the torch has been passed down to the next generation. Except it's not just Loomis trying to correct a mistake he made. These are sisters. So now it's even more heated on the new Loomis's part.
Yeah.
But I think that
Well, the relationship
you can
aspect.
either end it with, yeah, it's iconic. It'd be
Yeah.
iconic and archetypal.
Because you already have like Laurie Strode and Michael Myers as from a relationship standpoint, even though like was it, can't say who, we were talking about that behind the scenes, and like they didn't necessarily like the idea of them being related, and it was just kind of a last minute thing to tie everything together into a neat bow, because they didn't know if they're going to do anything. Originally the Halloween series is supposed to be an anthology series, and 1 and 2 were supposed to be the beginning and end of that storyline. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was supposed to be an entirely different thing, and they were supposed to keep going from there.
Well, yeah, I think that having Jamie become the shape at the end, you could end it there.
Yeah.
Or if you have a sequel like a comic or a new movie with an adult Jamie versus an adult Rachel,
Yeah,
that would be even better.
that would have been fine. I think. Yeah, I think.
But but I think that would have to end with the shape being banished and destroyed,
Yeah.
like the demonic spirit that's possessing the Strode family,
Hmm.
or not the Strode family, but the
The
Myers
Myers
family
family. Yeah.
lineage
Or was
has
it
to be destroyed.
the? It's kind of like the spirit of
But
Samhain and
then,
the Thorn Mark.
yeah, whatever that thing is, because it's a demon possessing members of this family.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like Mary of Elmar in a way. But the thing is, I think it would have to end with its banishing in the fourth part of the Myers story, and then just move to anthologies, like you said, like for heaven, like for everyone's sake, just move to anthologies
Oh,
after that, because
the reboots,
the
the
story's over.
2020 reboots, like just killed any interest for me. Like when
Yeah,
oh my gosh, I saw the first one. I think in the middle of the pandemic, we were on lockdown because of they were worried about the rioting and stuff that was going on. So I was like, okay, we rented that first Halloween reboot out of the trilogy, and it was just god awful. It made every man feel like they were incompetent. It basically was just a bunch of like feminine rage and girl bossery, and it just made Michael Myers just seem like he was just there. And then we got promotional tickets to see Halloween, that last Halloween part of the reboot. So I didn't watch the second one, but I did watch the last one for free. My wife and I got tickets. We went to a promotional thing for they were watching Hocus Pocus. It was like a drive-through or drive-in thing where we got to watch Hocus Pocus. And I was talking to one of the there's a movie called The Call, and this guy had wrote the screenplay for it. And we were just talking about horror movies or whatever, and he gave me free tickets to go see Halloween Kills, or the last one. And then I actually did watch The Call in between that, and we had this long conversation about his movie because I really enjoyed it. It's The Call. It has Tobin Bell and Lynn Shay in it, and it was actually really good. So I was more interested in talking to him and picking his brain about the movie he wrote or whatever than actually Halloween, because the Halloween movie is just garbage.
Well, most of the reboots after number 4 are just garbage.
Yeah. Oh, I think I was on Twitter talking about the Rob Zombie ones.
Yeah, you were. And like I said, most horror directors don't know how to end a horror movie anymore. They just don't.
I think in Rob Zombie's case, he's more interested in the spectacle and just callbacks to things from our kind of more pulpy stuff.
Yeah, maybe he'd be better off doing pulp noir films or something.
I think the Devil's Rejects and 3 from Hell are probably the best things that he's done, but that's like original territory stuff and not like basically trying to ruin things that we grew up with.
Yeah, I think going with some pulp roots for horror would probably be something that more horror directors could stand to learn from.
I can agree with that.
Because pulp could be dark, but it knew sometimes you have to give it a happy ending, or sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
You need good instincts and your gut. Well, you were talking about how when it comes to going down the rabbit holes, you need to do the same thing with your endings for each story. Like, I would argue even mythic fantasy, because I always call it mythic these days. But the mythic genre, or fantasy, if you will, and even romance or whatever, you need to know how to end it. You need a good set of instincts and a good gut instinct, and you need to have read material in that field to know how to end it. Now, Tolkien once said, every fairy story, every fantasy story needs to needs to have a happy ending. Jet. But he was kind of right, but I also think sometimes, like, you look at the ending of Warcraft 3, That's a perfect ending.
Mm-hmm.
With Arthas ascending the staircase, that was perfect for that story. Now, naturally, we do need the Lich King things resolved at some point. But you look at Last Unicorn, it's a bittersweet ending.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need those.
Yeah, it needs to be few and far between, not the norm.
Yeah, but the happy ending should perhaps be like 50% to 60% of the time.
Yeah,
But
because
the rest of the time,
oh
sorry.
well, if you look at life, like 90% of the things that you deal with in life can be resolved with a relatively decent ending. Well, there's a lot of times where
Mm,
sometimes you lose. Hey, sometimes you do. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes you don't get the thing that you want. Sometimes it's kind of like the Bad News Bears. Like you kind of need that ending of
mm.
them not winning the playoffs, because that just kind of shows
Yeah.
that yes, you guys didn't get what you want this time, but you will work harder and you'll try harder next time.
Mm, exactly. And les choses avec uh, endings is that horror, like someone told me a few days ago, I don't really like horror because um, I don't really care for how it always ends with in darkness. And what I told that person was, really? Well,
Hmm.
I know that's something more recent, but traditionally, horror ended happily because it's really Grimm's fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at the Mummy movie and Mummy Returns; they have happy endings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you just stop at number two, it's a happily ever after. Like you don't. I'm not saying use it every time, but like this is the sort of ending you can make use of, and this is the sort of ending the audience and readers like. People prefer these sort of endings, so sometimes you do need to give them what they want.
Yeah.
And I think with this movie, it would have been better to go with uh, the non postmodernist ending. That is to say, the more classic Christian ending. Good has triumphed, evil has been defeated for the moment. For the moment, I'm stressing that part, and life will continue. And I think that's a better ending. Sure, Alice's reputation for now is kind of shot, and Finn's is definitely shot,
Mm-hmm.
but like faith has been restored, light has been restored to um that area, and the shadow that was cast over the village is gone. And really, this is a fairy tale. This is a fairy tale,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think treat it like a fairy tale. But like some stories, like the Van Helsing movie has a bittersweet ending. The Solomon Kane movie, awesome as it is, has a bittersweet ending,
Yeah.
and that's appropriate. Oh man, I still think about the Solomon Kane movie. I
Well,
love that movie. Um,
especially when dealing with darkness and dealing with like horror and stuff like that, you tend to understand that sometimes it's kind of it's a balance where sometimes good will
mm,
win, sometimes evil will win, sometimes like evil winning like strengthens the resolve of good.
yeah, yeah, and I kind of think, for example, um, evil wins in Halloween 4.
Mm-hmm.
Well, follow that victory of evil to its logical conclusion, and good will win in the end. It
Mm-hmm.
always does.
Mm-hmm.
But Halloween 4 should have strengthened the resolve of, say, Rachel and her family to stop Jamie and in the next movie. And sure, Loomis might break. Like, I like the idea of him breaking and where he can't keep up the battle anymore. So he passes down the torch
Yeah.
because, like, not being able to save this little girl destroyed him. I like that idea. Evil won. Michael, in a way, won. But that would have meant that the next Halloween movie with Jamie would have resulted in Jamie's defeat. And I think that's important. And I think for example, Friday the 13th, part 2, 3, 4 have, well, have Michael triumphant in a way.
Okay.
And, well, usually very openly. So we do need those endings because, like, you can't just end it at number 2 with how it ends. You can't end it at number 3 with the way it ends. And number 2 and 3, it's not conclusive.
I was gonna say 2 is
Number 4,
it's a vague ending.
yeah, it's too vague. Number 4, well, I would argue it's also too vague. And like there's so much up in the air. Number 6, I feel like this is this, like, you know how Tommy says it's over, it's finally over. I feel like no, it's just beginning for you, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it should just be the beginning for Tommy and Jason's rivalry. That's why, like I said, I don't like. I prefer the fan film series Bloodlines, where it follows the Jarvis lineage because, and then finally Tommy, because we finally get that ending we've always wanted between Tommy and Jason. And I think that's how it should have gone. And but then again, hey, we found out through DNA testing we're Celtic, so us Celts, everything's about bloodline and passing the torch down. So, in our blood feuds and whatnot. So we're kind of funky that way. We're funny that way. But yeah, hell, I'll even say The Hobbit. You know, like for endings, The Hobbit ends on a cliffhanger because you got the ring, which is very peculiar. You have Gollum out and about wanting to kill Bilbo, and you have Gandalf saying, "It's a very big world out there, Bilbo. You know, like, be careful what you wish for when you say you want to see it all.
Mm-hmm.
It might just come to you because the Shire is just a little slice of land in a much bigger world." So, like, The Hobbit ends on a cliffhanger, which I think is kind of dark in some ways because Gandalf's saying, "Yeah, we beat Smaug." That's like, you know what I mean? That's like the junior competition. That's junior leagues. We're about to go into the championships. Like, dude, this isn't a victory. We lost 2 because we lost Thorin. We needed, we wanted to keep Thorin alive. We lost. And yes, we won back his soul, but we did lose big. And it's one of those things where ends on a great cliffhanger. So this is one of those, yeah, it really boils down to the ending with this movie. But man, I really love the criminal investigation part of this movie. That's probably one of my favorite parts. Just having the character go into the study and, like, okay, I'll say this: Full Metal Alchemist did the same thing with not Carrie Elwes, but
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, Hagen goes down into the archives, and like, you've got Finn who realizes he went down to the archives because he was suspicious of something. I need to go down into the archives because I'm suspicious now. So I like this. It's like Hughes and whatnot from Full Metal, and then he checks out the other archive as well because they have more data, and well, there's copies of the data, which is natural. Of course, Mary of Almar doesn't realize that the Vatican would also have a copy of all those files because you have to keep. Oh wait, no, it would go from the priest to the bishop to the archbishop to finally the Vatican, because everybody needs a copy because they're Roman. Like, if they don't have paperwork for it, they're going to come up with paperwork. Like, come on, bureaucracy was the Roman, like, bread and butter. They're obsessed with it.
It was a secondary religion.
Yeah. Yes, it's a secondary religion of Rome. Is there a paper document for it? Well, no, we figured we didn't need it. You're excommunicated. Get out. You're defrocked.
Get out of my sight.
Like, don't come back. Yeah, it's like, don't come back till you come back with paperwork. Of course, I'll just say paperwork seems to be the American kryptonite, but I guess it's the superpower of Rome. But hey, at least it's not the Koreans or Well, actually, I'll say this: paperwork is the French's kryptonite too, but the Koreans and the and I would say the English, it's their well, they're waxing their carrot off to that stuff. It's all they think about. Like when they're in the shower and they're letting one go, they don't think about their wife. They don't think about pretty girls. They think about paperwork. And the women do it too. So like they think about paperwork all the time. I'm joking here, but like seriously, I've had to deal with Koreans and the English for like work related reasons, and the obsession with paperwork and bureaucracy is just mind numbing. And like like when I work with Americans or French or Japanese, it's like, all right, we're gonna have to fill out some paperwork. There's immediate groans. Like I've even had one Japanese coworker who just said, "Can I put it off?" So you put it off for 3 months. I just want to put it off some more. Like, no, like it was over like a colleague's visa, and it was like, no, you can't put it off by another day. Well, I wanna like
Physical stuff or doing physical work is one thing. Like when you have to do any form of paperwork or any form of like it's like police work when you have to file a report. That's probably the worst part of the job, because you have to sit here and write about what happened and try to explain it as best as possible in a way that's satisfactory to your higher ups or whatever. It's the TPS reports of
yes.
of just the
And
job.
That's something I do feel bad for cops having to deal with. Now, naturally, we all know the English and Korean police are probably filling out 4 documents for it because they can't help themselves. No wonder their birth rates are also down. They have to file paperwork to, enjoy relations. So it gets bogged down, and at some point you end up behind on your bureaucracy, on everything, on life, taking the dog out.
Oh no.
And, going out with the wife.
And with relationships becoming filled with red tape.
Yeah. Like,
I would be so irritated.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, honey, I can't sleep with you tonight. Why is that? I didn't fill out the TPS report for it. Damn it!
Came home, let's took out the trash, made dinner, banged wife, sinned. Like, do you have to go in detail?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like, but seriously, like I said, it's just I've had to work with some Koreans, and it was like, do I really need to fill out this much paperwork? Yes. How will we know? How will we get work done without paperwork? I could just do it, and it's like I could just do the work. You saw me do like what I was supposed to do. Well, yes, but how do I know you actually did it right? You were there with me in the room, almost. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, the hell? Like, and it's like, but I need report, and other people will need report. So you need to print 2 copies, and it's like, okay, I'll do that. And then it's like, okay, this is the last set of documents for this, isn't it? No. This just first documents. We need you have still another 4 pieces of documentation to fill out. You're killing me here. Like, yeah. And having tried to get a visa once with the English and having dealt with the English, even in a semi-professional manner, also because of another gig I did once, it was like, listen, can we just call it a day? No, we have to do it this way because this is how government bureaucracy says it has to be done. Really? Yeah, it's like the English and the Koreans.
Bureaucratic fetch quest.
Yeah.
I would never have thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's their societies in a nutshell. Like I love the history of England and Korea. I love their cultures. But I cannot understand them for the life of me. I actually get this is why I understand the Scots, because when I talk to some Scots, they're like, we want to join the EU. Why? Because then it's only one set of paperwork. It's not whatever the hell London's doing. And they're like, the paperwork made more sense before because it wasn't as many. We now have tripled our paperwork. We got to cut down on this shit. And, it's one of those, now Now, I didn't think about the Remainer Brexit in that sense, but now I understand some of the Remainers. Like, this shit got so over convoluted. But yeah, the Vatican has so much paperwork. So the files of Mary Elmar, there's probably like another 2 or 3 copies to the damn thing.
There's probably more detail in those than in what the public got.
Yeah, probably much more than just in the bishop and the priests version, because they'd all have copies even of the journal and everything, because you'd have to fill out those TPS reports. And like, it'd be pretty funny if there had been a sequel and Mary gets defeated, or like maybe her successor gets defeated. Like, she's got a cousin or something who's also a demon, gets defeated due to the Vatican having kept spare paperwork on this crap. It just, like, demonic demons are beaten by paperwork. Okay, no, I just sounded like an Englishman.
You know what would be a hilarious kind of slasher movie?
What?
If a slasher monster went after bureaucrats in a huge bureaucratic historical building.
No. In an actual corporation. Like, like in Office Hours, except you actually have a slasher monster on the loose, just going around killing people, and you have to have the one guy, like from Office Hours, I forget this. Well, yeah, you're gonna need to fill out a report before you slash at me. So fill out these documents. Also, don't forget to note where the slasher guy just kills him right then and there. This is illegal. Just starts just stabbing him while he's down, like, just repeatedly, just because he's pissed off at him. We definitely need a Office Hours Friday the 13th crossover or something. We definitely need that. I need that in my life.
Jason just going crazy,
but the main
printers.
The main problem with such a movie is that the slasher monster would be the hero.
Fair.
Okay, yeah.
Still be an entertaining flick.
Yeah, maybe at the end he works construction alongside the 2 guys from Office Hours.
And the one guy in the entire building that the monster spares is the janitor.
Somebody's got to clean up the bodies.
Viscera cleanup.
So, yeah, overall, I quite like this movie. There's some flaws, but I quite like it.
Yeah, it's
not my favorite horror.
I was gonna say it's not gonna be on my top 10 or top 20 list, but it's a pretty solid film.
I think my top horror will always be Brides of Dracula.
That is a good one.
But I'm glad that this one was one you liked. I believe next time we've got Interstellar, and then it's going to be another Cary Elwes with Princess Bride.
Yep, I'm gonna have to gear up and like sit down and watch Interstellar again. I haven't seen it in a while, but I saw it in theaters. Did I watch it?
Never seen it.
I saw it in theaters, and actually, like, I bought it. No,
it's just after Dunkirk. I never wanted to watch another Nolan movie.
No, I understand. Tenet kind of like killed the momentum of those types of films.
Yeah, and he's just declining with every year.
Especially when Tenet, the copy of Tenet that I got for Christmas, has the sound issues that the movie had, to where the audio drowns out the dialogue. So
Yeah,
I watched it once
maybe,
and I couldn't do it afterwards.
yeah, Nolan. Maybe it's that he sold his soul, and that's the problem. But that said, I'll just touch on one last thing with this movie. I've watched a few Cary Elwes movies a while back, and in recent years, he's done a lot of horror. And usually he's either a mentor or a villain of sorts, or villain adjacent, I should say. And he's usually killed.
Well, yeah, Saw.
No matter what.
Like, Saw, he started out as basically a protagonist, and later on he becomes one of Jigsaw's henchmen.
But the problem is, like I know he's probably struggling to find work because he's a guy
Well, he's
in
getting,
the modern cinema.
yeah,
Like the thing is, in modern cinema, like this is one thing I actually really hate what's happened the past 20 years because Cary Elwes was an actor. He did everything right, and he's such a good actor. And if anyone was born to play a swashbuckling Errol Flynn character, even at his age, it's him.
yeah. I mean, he's basically pretty much he could have filled the spot that Antonio Banderas left when he decided to kind of move on, and do more Spanish-speaking drama.
Yes, exactly. And Elwes, honestly, like he's just a really talented actor, and you listen to the man speak on and well in front and behind the camera and whatnot, like on and off screen.
Mm-hmm.
He's very intelligent. He's very cultivated. He has a profound love for Shakespeare, for example.
Yeah,
And
all the best actors usually have a Shakespearean background.
exactly. But the problem is either he needs to fire his agent or, well, this is pretty much industry wide.
It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. Hollywood has this problem.
Yeah.
And I know this is coming to a close now.
DI.
Yeah, it's the DI. It's the male, pale, and stale thing where people are trying to phase out like white men and heterosexual white men, even though none of it looks like what's going on right now is a lot of the numbers are declining and movies are bombing out because a lot of the stuff that was being pushed in the last 10 years is unpalatable.
The trouble is the European or white man is the one that most people can get behind.
Yeah, he's the everyman.
And, yeah, and the thing is, they're forgetting that their audience is the northern hemisphere, not the Arabic world or something.
Most of the problem that I've noticed too is like I understand as an African American or as a black man, I'm 13% of the population. Like you're not going to appeal to everyone trying to cater to one segment of the demographic that's only representative of 13% of the country.
Exactly. And here's the other thing. Now, French movies I've noticed still have the Frankish man, le Franc, as we call it, the Frenchman as the hero, like the the European man as the main hero. And this is the norm in Quebec in French films, and I'm starting to watch more of those. But I'm also noticing like the black movie industry. Weirdly enough, I find portrays the white man far more flatteringly than the mainstream Hollywood and Hollywood adjacent do, which is so bizarre to me because when I'm going through Netflix or I'm going through movies online that are in the US from today, I'm either like, well, it needs to be either horror for it to be good, or let's see if it's in the black movie industry, if it's going to be in English, because the black movie industry will usually put like either a black man or a black woman in the lead role. But it's not always an absolute rule that the white American will be the villain, because I found a few where he's actually a heroic character, or usually he is a love interest or is a friend. If it's a white man, he's usually a friend of the hero or heroine. And this is something I've noticed, and I don't mind that as much. Like, if he's just I don't want to say bumbling sidekick, but if he's like the mentor or the pupil or the co-hero, so to speak, like where the black guy's the main hero, but then, he's got his buddy partner or whatever, and it's a black movie, like I've noticed the white man's usually better treated than, you know what I mean? Mainstream Hollywood, where he's Homer Simpson.
And another problem is that when you look at Hollywood, when you have, for example, the black lead, they try and force it, and you can't force it. That's what the problem with DEI is. It's like they're trying to force
It's affirmative action. Whereas the blacks movies cinema thing, well, it's basically, it really dates back to 1940, and
Like the
it's
Hays
by
Code.
black actors and producers. Yeah,
It's-
and it's like, but like I said, I've noticed that some of those movies will portray the white guy as either the voice of reason or the friend or love interest or something,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like, but the thing is, but they've started to get infected by the stupid in the past 10, 15 years. And it's just one of those things where, um, like I remember, it might sound weird, but I remember on a date I had to watch Think Like a Man or whatever. But in
Oh,
there,
yeah.
the only white guy in that movie was the happily married guy who is actually the voice of reason to all of his friends. And he says at the end, like, yeah, well, I have to go to my daughter's recital that night. Wait, you're just gonna go? It's like, no, it's like I have to cook with my wife. Oh, come on, are you gonna choose your wife over your friends?
Yeah.
Fuck you. It's my wife. And
Yeah.
you guys, and he tells them, you guys, you all had great relationships. You all had things going well for you. You screwed it up. You got to
Mhm.
take a good hard look at yourselves before you cast the blame on the other person. If you want to be as happy as I am, you actually have to work on yourselves and work for it.
Yeah. There
And
has
he
to be
gets up and walks out.
there has to be some level of accountability.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is where I'm like, in American cinema, I find it so bizarre, and that you have to go to the black films for respect for the European man, whereas in the Hollywood sphere, you're never going to get it. But if you go to Japanese cinema or European cinema, and I'm going to consider Quebec cinema part of Europe because it's really so deeply tied with French cinema, and I'm not going to count Britain because it's basically falling under Hollywood. Well, Scotland actually is separate, so I'll say England.
Mhm.
But England and America are basically down in the gutter. But Japan, well, actually, I'll say Europe and Asia are a lot better. And the European man is usually the hero. Oh, wait, there is one exception in American movies where he is usually the hero. And he usually does everything right, and you can cheer for him. Liam Neeson. I mean,
Liam
that
Neeson would be a
man,
good
like,
choice.
yeah, God rest his soul and bless him, because this man is breaking his back. No, he must have back problems because he's carrying the whole weight of the American cinema
Mhm.
on his shoulders. He is Atlas of cinema, like just holding the world, like the American world, on his shoulders. And he himself has called out the DEI stuff and said, this stuff has to end because I can't be the only guy in the industry thinking of film as art and trying to put out a decent movie. People have to stop doing this propaganda bullshit and need to start actually putting out good movies,
Well,
and they need accountability.
that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. Like, when
Yeah.
I know I got a lot of flack back in the day because I kind of pointed out that games, with the games as art thing, has done more damage to a lot of things, but it's mainly because you have a lot of people that don't have an interest in video games, but they feel like because if you use the excuse of it being art, then a lot of people that have no talent can come in and basically ruin things, can just do what they want. So movies and film I think of as an art form, but the artistry usually gets pushed out of the way because there's a lot of I think the bean counter aspect has kind of ruined movies, whereas they're more interested in line going up than actually making something like worth a damn. It's like we don't have any Kubricks anymore. or any visionary
And
directors for that matter.
the last one, to an extent, was George Lucas, but he got hounded out of the business by the fans.
Yeah. He
We have
lost
to bear in mind,
confidence in himself.
which is sad because you look at even his remastering, like him putting old scenes from the novel back into the movie, was him looking. He never looked at episode 4, 5, and 6 like, oh, this is just my product. He looked at it as, well, as he called it, it's his baby. And he's like, I have to, because we got to remember the original script he wrote ran for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the novels he co-wrote were like his vision. So, and the thing is with the episode 1, 2, and 3 movies is they follow his vision a lot more closely. And they're more tied to the canon of the books to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
as like midichlorians is pretty much discussed in episode 4 of the novel.
Mm-hmm.
It's discussed in there. So I understand this was a shock to some people, but if you read the 1976 novel, you realize, oh yeah, it's right there in the beginning.
Yeah,
And the problem is,
my only gripe with metachlorians is that it just kind of demystifies everything.
well, I understand, but like I said, it's been there from the beginning.
Yeah, I understand that
And-
too. It's just like it's one of those things where you don't tell if you tell too much, you kind of take the mystique out of there.
I can understand. The problem is George was making, I don't think just simply Flash Gordon sci-fi, but or something. It seems like he was more like Tolkien. He
Yeah.
wanted to explain every bit of his lore.
Yeah, he tried to build
And
it on
wanted to
the
explain.
kind of like the molecular level.
Yeah, he was like Tolkien. The problem is after a certain, like after probably like 2007 or so, we got to bear in mind there were incidences of fans following him, stalking him, threatening him, and like I think it even extended to his kids online at one point. I remember reading up about that and
Mhm.
years ago, and it was like he basically lost all confidence because, as he put it, he's more hated than Hitler, and he wanted out. Like he was scared. He was like, okay, I want out. Like tap me out, Captain. Like let me out. And this is the sad thing because he's still a very talented artist.
Mhm.
But I mean, like with his 6 movies, he built like the biggest American franchise of all times, and he was an indie producer doing that. But the thing is, or director, I should say. But the thing is, he lost, like as you put it, confidence, and that's the thing. Like the bean counters stifle creativity; they stifle everything. Like we can see the difference between Star Wars under George and Star Wars under the bean counters. Under George, it's dynamic, it's fun, it's fascinating and intelligent, it's deep. But under the bean counters, it's dumb.
Yeah.
So there's this massive difference. And I would say the book publishing industry, the film industry, and the game industry also suffer from the same problem. Too many elites, too many bean counters at the top. And they never fire each other. They just transfer each other from one department to another. And like you look at, it's why like CEOs of Warner or of Disney or of Warner Interactive or Rocksteady and whatnot all transfer between the different companies just because they're all owned by the same people. So
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? No one ever gets fired. When no one's ever being forced to take accountability for mismanaging. So the problem is the bean counters have ruined everything.
I can
But-
agree with that.
Yeah, but the thing is, that doesn't mean we should let it stop us from creating art.
Mhm.
Actually, we should let it encourage us because the big corpos aren't even proper competition anymore.
Well, yeah, that's
And-
kind of the problem. It's like it feels like they're hitting that point of realization now, and now that they're realizing that things are just kind of not where they want it to be, they're grasping for power. It's slipping out of their fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly it. Just as victory was seized from just out of the grasp of Mary Elmar.
And on
Just
that
to tie
note,
it back and
yeah, I gotta make dinner, so we probably should wrap this up. I got a hungry dog
Yeah.
over here whining at me.
I gotta cook supper as well.
Mm.
So I also have to release today's Sword and Saturday edition on Substack.
See, busy.
So-
We're always doing something.
Yeah. All 3 of us are. So on that note, I'll remind people, because I'll be posting this on my end on YouTube. Follow Full Screen Boss Fight on Rumble, please, for the love of everything sacred. Follow, support him, because honestly, your content is real fun. Like in real Negro hours, your boss fight at the movies, your analysis of games.
I try.
It's it's awesome stuff, and your art is awesome too.
I'm trying to embrace a lot of my creative aspects, whatever. I feel like as you get older, you're like, man, I really need to do something with my life before everything's over, so I don't have any regrets or feel like I squandered my talents.
Exactly. And on our end, I'll just tell people, check out our Royal Road account, because we're writing, well, in this case, I'll plug horror. We're writing a fantasy horror novel modeled after Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's called Varcola.
Sounds good. I will put the links in the video thing. Well, I have to come back and put a thumbnail on this, so I will add the links and everything else as well. And since it's on Rumble, it's already up, so you can just link this right after we finish up here.
Because it needs some grace period or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For some odd reason, I can't download it the day of an upload or stream.
It encodes like.
I don't pretend to understand.
Yeah, it's the thing about Rumble that gets me, and this is like a thing. This is kind of like a behind the curtain moment for you guys watching. The thing about Rumble is that it's one of those things where there's a lot of encoding that happens. So it's unlike YouTube where it just goes up and it's up. It takes a while for the video to just kind of be loaded up to the. It has to be loaded up and just kind of re-encoded in order to adhere to their setup. So it's tough. It takes a little while. So I like to when I put up videos, I'll put it up like a day before, so that way it's fully all set up and to go.
Yeah, and I just sent you the link to the Varcola story, so you could put that up. And hopefully people will be even mildly interested in a good little vampire story.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we gotta get going.
Yep.
And you have to, deal with the Three Rings Circus.
Well, I promised I was gonna barbecue, so the weather's nice enough to start grilling again, so I'm excited for that. But so thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Brothers Kren, for showing or kind of hanging out with me for this little while to talk about the Unholy. Thank you guys, and we will see you next boss fight. Take care. Have a great rest of your Saturday.